All right, welcome to the party, pals. First of all, you got to patch it because I didn't put it back on the first slide here. But thank you to everybody popping in. I see a lot of familiar faces already. I'm going to go ahead and blow through this introduction here that we do every single time. Let's get started. So our monthly goals is the first 2 weeks we'll have people talking. This month actually has the 5 weeks, which is why we have 3 speakers. And today it will be me. Um, then we'll have the 2 first speakers for the first 2 Thursdays of each month. The middle of the month we'll have open discussion. So our next meeting next week is just open discussion. We don't have anything like scheduled. It's just going to be, oh, here's the stage link. Let's talk. Let's see what everybody's working on and so forth. And then the last Thursday of every single month is our job readiness and group resume review. Now, we're all here for a shared mission to break down barriers, to collaborate, to make a more secure future for everybody. We're here to learn and grow together. Use the community. If you're not sure about something, say something. I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable doing so. You just got to get used to asking those questions, no matter what they are. Even if it doesn't pertain to exactly what we're talking about, worst case scenario, we'll circle back around to it. All right. And then since we will be opening up the stage, I'm going to go through my presentation real quick, and then we'll be opening up the stage for anybody to hop up. Some of the do's and don'ts here. So it is a business casual meeting. It is recorded and live streamed. Don't share anything you don't want to be public. If you do happen to share something that you don't want to be public, just reach out to me on Discord, drop something inside of our Discord server, or email me at that contact@studygrc.org, and we could try to figure out how we can get that fixed. If you do choose to come up on the stage, which I highly encourage you to do so, you do not have to turn on your video, but it would be helpful if you turn on your microphone. We definitely encourage you to go through, like I said, ask questions, but also share your personal LinkedIn. So you can join our Discord server and hop into our live stream chat that we have, and you could post links in there, and I'll go ahead and relay that to the rest of our platforms. Share other resources and other topics as well. Like I said, worst case scenario, we'll come back around to it. Now, also, we have our website, studygrc.org. That's where you'll find the rest of our platforms, also our resources page and the calendar. So we had State of Study GRC just earlier this week. And like I said, that calendar is going to be the most up-to-date for what's coming up. And then you can also check out not sponsors per se, but some really cool places, simplycyber.io and Brit White, which we have commands for both of those too. So !SC and BDubs. All right. And then last but not least, me and Dwight are doing the privacy stream every single week. So that drops at 11 a.m. on Tuesdays. So check that out on Tuesdays, where we just kind of go over some of the different privacy aspects and maybe some articles or questions that people bring up and so forth. And with that said, now let's go ahead and get over to the slide deck here. I'm going to go ahead and double check chat real quick. I see more people flowing in. So I find it kind of funny that I have never actually presented, but since we had the extra week added on, I figured I might as well do something. But I've never actually, I guess I did present the other day with the risk register portion, but how's everybody doing? And I already see there's some people going through trying to get the badge portion. So this is the second week that we're doing the badge. So the secret way that you do the badge is you go into our Discord server and you drop GRC Mafia, all capital letters inside of our live chat, and then you earn a badge for the next week. You get a GRC Mafia badge next to your name. And eventually, we're going to mix it up a little bit and so forth, and you guys are going to have to start working a little harder for it. But I definitely look forward to that part. All right, let's see here. And yeah, it looks like we dropped the Discord server not too long ago. So let me drop that one more time, and then we'll get the ball rolling. Yeah, welcome Ryan, B-Dubs, Blakinator, Rhonda. We got AMK in here, Shane, a whole bunch of people. Smokey's hopped in on the Discord side too. That's awesome. Space Tacos, McCoy, Cyber Cycles back. Yeah, welcome to the party, pals. GRC Mafia. So I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time tonight, of course, but I'm going to go through this slide here. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are. We do have B-Dubs in the backstage who's going to be reviewing chat. I'm throwing that out there for accountability. And yeah, let's just get into it. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about insights for self-study in the golden age. This is going to be a play on Gerald's keynote. So at Wild West Hacking Fest, we talked about before in December, we talked about Wild West Hacking Fest talks. And Gerald went through, and his entire premise was the fact that we are in the golden age of education, of just information out there. Back in the good old days, like Jerry was talking about, you'd go up to, the convenience store or book comic store, and, you'd buy a magazine in order to learn information security, or really, it wasn't even that. It was a lot more difficult to get into the industry and learn what you needed to learn, practice it, and so forth. And so nowadays we have the internet, we have AI, we have all kinds of communities and instant messaging apps and so forth. So there's so many different ways and methods that you can get out there and learn not just GRC or information security, but pretty much everything. Of course, there's going to be different barriers with different topics, but a lot of it applies to such. Now, I did want to give a little bit of about me. So in most presentations, people will go through and do this. I believe most of you guys probably know a little bit about me at least. I say strong passions, technology, GRC, 98% of that NIST. I absolutely love NIST. And then also community, of course. So not only with study GRC, but all of the surrounding communities that we have. And then self-study enthusiast. I really say that because even before I was pushing for all of this with GRC and information security and so forth, I've really stepped my toe in a lot of different things. So from welding and doing tires, and I did sales for a while. I went through and studied for commercial drone pilot license for a year. So I've really kind of like built up all kinds of different stuff and studied things throughout my life as well. So, and I feel like that's kind of gave me a little bit of an advantage from the get-go because I was already so prepared on the self-study portion, even though I was very overwhelmed once I realized how big that Sec Plus was. Yeah, and I just noticed in chat right there. So Space Tacos mentions that I looked very serious in that picture that was on LinkedIn. Yes, I just had to supply the mugshot. That's my response to that. But moving on. So should you even learn self-study anyways? Like what's the point? Some people may think that, just going off and getting a mentor to teach you, a teacher, just go enroll in college and so forth, why should you even self-study at all? And these are just some of the different advantages that I like to highlight. So you're going to be self-studying the rest of your life in this industry, whether you like that or not. If it's a make or break, really. So especially in the technology industry, the industry changes at such a rapid rate that you can't just be stagnant with it. So especially in this industry that we primarily discuss in, it really is something that you just have to get used to some extent. Cost effectiveness as well. So typically it's a lot cheaper than just going off and paying for college, for an example, or taking SANS courses and things like that. So especially when you're looking out of pocket, it's cheaper. And another thing, like I've talked to many people, and that a lot of people might not stick with it. They get interested, and then they get 6 weeks in, and then they're like, oh, I don't know about this anymore. And maybe within that 6 weeks, they already invested thousands of dollars into things. And I've talked to people who've dropped $15,000 into a boot camp and got nothing out of it. So that's what I'm going to discuss a little bit more in depth later on as well. Now, flexibility and personalization. So this gives you a little bit more flexibility, especially on the self-study portion. I believe everybody in chat has experience with self-study, most certainly. But one thing I really like about it is that it's flexible. It's not like you have to do it this time, you have to do it that time. Another big portion about it as well is you can kind of organize it in which way makes sense to you. For an example, the Sec Plus, I have a spreadsheet that's publicly available, by the way, that just has all of the different objectives, and I went through and color coded them. And I didn't do the Sec Plus and study that in order. I just went through it and I was like, oh, I know a little bit about that. Let's dig into this. And then I was like, oh, I have no idea what that is. And I have 2 hours to kill. So let's do it. So there's flexibility with it. Now, how online communities enable continuous growth. Who would I be without including something about community even furthermore in here? So primarily shared knowledge and peer support. So not only do we share knowledge by just talking about different topics and asking questions and everything else. Uh, so many of us, I mean, there's a couple dozen of us in chat alone, and each one of us comes from a completely different background, maybe similar industries, but there's a lot of collective knowledge that's out there, and that's extremely valuable. That's one thing that I really like talking to people is because you get such insight. Now, also the peer support. Just the other day, an individual was asking, questions in regards to like support on studying and just keeping up with things and so forth. I mentioned it before, and I mentioned it in the Discord then on the fact that like without community, without talking to everybody and making so many connections and friends and so forth, I would have most certainly burned out. It's way easier when you have some type of support system to be like, man, I just don't understand this, or man, I'm just getting burned out on it. Like, what do I do? Like having that outlet is very important. Now, with that said, community is great and everything else, but also so is effective communication. So, clarify your goals and be specific. So, that is where, effective communication. You don't want to just be like, hey, how's it going? Or I have a question and then wait hours on end. Just position it right off the bat. Just throw everything out there and be like, hey, I don't understand what an IDS is, and I don't understand the concept. I've never seen this before. What the hell does that even look like? And then hopefully, somebody drops a photo in chat and is like, oh yeah, this is what it is, and here's a great visual video on YouTube all about it. Problem solved, or whatever various topic it could be. But just keep in mind, especially that effective communication is extremely important, and especially in business, you just don't want to waste people's time. Just be upfront off the bat on what your needs are. Now, I kind of all of this entire slide will be available in the Discord after the stream as well. But so this is kind of like my one of the two different walkthroughs that I put together. So definitely define the clear goals, and that's where that SMART method comes in. And I had mentioned about B-Dubs' website before earlier, and she has an awesome walkthrough along with a really good infographic that goes along with it. And just go through, read that article, and then just work on implementing it. Once you start implementing the SMART goals, then it just becomes easier. It becomes like second nature, like, oh, okay, I have this system now. And it makes it a lot easier. And I feel like that also takes some of the stress off too, because like one of that is achievability. You need to, have realistic goals and not overestimate yourself. So now we're moving into create the learning plan. So you figure out what you want to do. You put together some SMART goals. Okay, well, how much time do you have? What's that kind of schedule look like? What webinars do you want to attend? What workshops are you going to do? What books do you want to read? That's when you have to go into like the project management, and then you're like, okay, so these are my goals that I have put together, but now you need to actually put those on the schedule. And I highly recommend, even if you just work 40 hours a week and then you study the rest of your time, use a calendar. Whether you write it down on a physical calendar that you pick up at the store, or you use a digital calendar, it's a lot easier for me at least to visualize that and actually see it, even if you just have those two things on there where you have work and study. So it's just one thing that I really like to do. So then seeking feedback and evaluation throughout like the Sec Plus, which I really like to reference back to because that was extremely difficult for me. I went into complete panic mode after about 3 or 4 days and realizing how broad that is. And getting that different feedback, doing the practice test, figuring out like what areas you need to work on. It's very, very difficult to identify how far you've come in a particular topic or area that you're studying. You don't really feel like a different person, and I'm sure many of you guys also feel the exact same. So you have to kind of document that down. And like my method when I'm studying something is I go through, I love color coding. And that's probably why like I love GRC so much, because I love infographics and color coding and spreadsheets. So Just literally, I do green for I love it, I'm good, I'm comfortable with it. Yellow if I'm like, I kind of sort of get it, but I'm probably going to forget it. And then red is like, I have no idea what this is, or I really know I need to work on it. So you could figure out your own color system, or different methods with that, but some type of system to identify and track your progress as well. Seek feedback and oh, I already read that portion. Apply what you learn. So as soon as possible, I put ASAP right here, because if you just read it out of a book, you're going to end up forgetting parts of that eventually. So you need to enact that as soon as possible. Like people have asked, like when they're going through the GRC masterclass, oh, what should I do after I complete the course? Oh, well, you could do these things. But also, I premised the fact that while you're going through and watching the video content, follow along. Pull up a spreadsheet, make up your own thing. He walks you through one of the spreadsheets, and you could do the exact same thing as you're watching the video. Even if you have to pause the video or otherwise, I find that to be way better for long term memory than just listening and then 3 days later I'm working on it. So you want to take that knowledge and then you want to do something with it as soon as possible. And that really helps reinforce that. And these are like my tips on, what works for me too, and some stuff to throw out there. Harness the power of technology, of course. So this is the second walkthrough that I mentioned. We have AI, we have all kinds of different stuff out there nowadays. And this is where the whole golden era comes in, is because it's just so accessible for so many people now. It's not available for everybody, but a lot of people have access to the internet nowadays, even if it's from your cell phone, and you could still learn a lot of different things. So, like the way that I kind of think about it, and I put it down on here, is like just ease into it, where I get interested in a particular topic, so I start Google dorking it. There's a great article that's on Try Hack Me that I could drop later that goes all about Google dorking and what that is and how you do it. Read blogs, books, socialize, just start finding all of these different resources and start digging into the topic itself. That is typically where I see most other people tend to do, is they start looking into it and then they slowly start to progress. But now the next step that I identify is the dig into it. And that's when you start finding community and others who share the topic. That, I believe, is a very crucial step. And the reason I say that is because I've also seen many, many people who go from 0 to 60, where they'll do a little bit of research and say, oh, this is something that's neat. But then they'll research it for 3 or 4 days or a couple weeks, and then they'll instantly go off and drop $1,000 into CompTIA Cert Master like I did, because I didn't know any better. I was like, oh, yeah, this is really cool and everything else. I'm just going to, throw it out there and hope for the best. That's where, especially when you're digging into a topic or otherwise, whether it's GRC or anything, I think it's very valuable to do your research and then try to find other people who share that interest or who work in that industry, by utilizing Google, by just looking around on the Discord servers, by just talking with people. Maybe you could find a community online. There's Facebook groups. There's the several different community things, like I think it's meetup.com or otherwise, where you could just try to locate these people. And then you get others' opinions in that industry itself, or at least in that interest group. And then the next step is where you go into the invest. That's when you're like, yes, this is something I am like dead set on. I am doing this. And that's when you're starting to look at the paid courses, industry certifications that have an ROI for return on investment, and going to conferences, and you're like full blown, you're going for it. I think this really helps to also identify along that process, and there should be a gap of time in between these as well. Because I, like I said, I kind of put it this way because I also see a lot of people who, kind of jump through it. Let's see, and then staying ahead of the curve. So these are some other really important parts that I want to throw in here. So embrace the continuous learning. I've worked in other industries as well, and it's very, very similar. So especially in this industry, that's something that you just have to kind of come to terms with. I can't stress that enough. So there's so much information out there. And how are we supposed to, especially in GRC, how are we supposed to identify these risks if we don't know what's out there? And that's ever evolving, and it always will be. So that's pretty important. And then even the software we use gets updated and new technologies come out, and we have AI advancing at an incredible speed. So very, very important. Staying informed goes hand in hand with that as well. I subscribe to multiple different newsletters. I go through and look at different blogs. I think it's Dark Reading, that is one of my favorites. But there's all kinds of different ones out there. That's also where like the daily cyber threat briefing comes on. And even if you look at other industries, there's other like associations and memberships and newsletters and things like that in that as well. Networking and collaborating, so that, community, which I was talking on earlier. And then also experiment and innovate. That's when you're actually practicing hands-on. If you don't use it, you lose it, kind of thing. That's how I kind of feel. Like I welded for years, and then I don't know, maybe 6 months ago I was like, oh, I could just weld this section of the trailer that broke, no problem. Yeah, well, it's not exactly like riding a bicycle. It works, but it's not as perfect as I used to be. So, and with some of the concepts and things that we do in GRC, at least, I wouldn't say that you're going to completely lose it. Like I've stated before and recently, is the most important part is understanding the concepts and the ability to do so, finding the information. But still, even with all the resources I come across, like I lose track. So it's reinforcing that memory portion. And there's actually a really good book that I didn't even add in here that I think is very good that goes with this as well. And I added this section too, of course, because use community. Use community. I could just stand here all night and say that. And I mean, I just don't know what else to say about that, because it's just so valuable. There's no way I would have stuck with it this long without support and without community and other assistance and perspectives and so forth. There's so many different communities, not even on Discord, that you can reach out to, get involved. It doesn't even have to be Simply Cyber or otherwise. I just happened to come across Simply Cyber on LinkedIn one day because somebody told me, oh, you should have a LinkedIn for this industry. And I came across one of the articles, and then I joined the server, and I was like, oh, this is pretty neat. And I ended up digging into it. You could do the exact same with any other community as well that you mix well, the culture fit. And yeah, the future of self-study, just embrace the changes, because also, a year from now, 2 years from now, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, the industry, it's going to be different. There's going to be new technologies that we could utilize. And just keep up with it. So, and that is the end of my TED Talk. I hope you guys found that insightful. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off the screen real quick. And then let me see here. And then I'll go ahead and drop the link and go through some of these questions as well. I didn't even turn music on. Oh well. Damn. All right, so I'm dropping the stage link. So if anybody does want to come up, you're more than welcome to do so. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the questions here in just a moment. Looks like we got a few of them here. Let's see. So Flakinator, a note of this: self-study is important, but you also have to understand the best way to learn for you. Self-study is needed, but it might also help you take an official course. Depends on the person. Yeah, it most certainly could depend on the person itself. That's one of the big reasons why I'm so big with community aspect, is just because when I didn't know anybody in industry or otherwise, I thought, oh, if I just buy this $1,000 course CertMaster from CompTIA, that's going to, just teach me everything I need to know, and it was absolute garbage. So I feel very screwed in that fact. And I see other people who end up in the same situation just because they didn't know any better. And that's why I think that if you were to just take a step back and research it and learn a little bit more about it before you take that leap, I think that would probably be the best scenario. Because I would also say we have a pretty high turnout as well on people who, get into it and then they find out that, oh, maybe this isn't the best. And let me go back over to the chat side here. Yeah, and I wasn't even looking at chat the entire time, so I will look back over the chat, but you guys sent a lot of messages. Thankfully, B-dubs did go through and mark out a lot of this. If there's anything that I missed or otherwise, go ahead and drop that in chat. B-dubs is no, B-dubs is on the backstage marking questions. Yeah, and yeah, so like Rhonda says, is that there's a lot of free resources. Yeah, that's all I'm saying, is that it's not that you can't go off and pay for stuff, but I don't believe that should be a first step. I think you should give it some time and get a little acclimated to it prior to doing so, and especially trying to find community prior. Oh, and it looks, this might be a response. Those courses that promise anything, we know that those courses or groups are all full of it, just money grabs. Yeah, and that's one of the biggest portions with why I say like finding that community before you go off and drop that kind of money. So, because a lot of people do get ripped off. Like, is CompTIA industry known? Yes, but also I put my money on them and I regret it. So, yeah. Oh, apparently there was a joke in chat about B-dubs running a boot camp. But yeah, that's why I think that you should kind of get a little acclimated to it and then try to find community so that way you can get some of that feedback. Now, this next one, so AMK mentions, I really like the topic, Chris. I was just thinking about reforming my study ways. Yeah, and so this is just like some of the different insights that I have based on, my experience with it and what kind of works for me. One big key thing based on these last two questions as well is, let me go ahead and pull this up actually. So this is something that you guys will definitely like to know. So if you guys go check out our YouTube channel, and I could drop a link to this as well. I'll drop this in Discord. But a really neat thing about this is coming up on, what is it, February 6th, Space Tacos will be presenting about learning styles and wellness in cybersecurity. And so that will go really hand in hand with my side of it as well and add on to it. So I wanted to throw that part out there as well, and I dropped that in chat. Let me double check this again. Yeah, Memorletti is saying it's called B-dubs Boot Camp. Are you sure it's not like 0 to hero in 60 days, making six figures? Larry's all disappointed that B-dubs isn't running a boot camp. Oh gosh. Oh yeah, exactly, B-dubs. Where's your WhatsApp? Yeah, we need your WhatsApp number. And also another really gigantic thing with this as well that I probably should have premised off the bat is I want your guys' feedback too. Like, what works for you guys? This is something where I could take these slides that I made, I could drop this into our resources on Discord, and then you guys could add yours as well, because everybody's different. And so on February 6th, Space Tacos will be presenting about learning styles that will go really hand in hand with this. But then that's going to help you. And then this is my methodology and my thought process with it. But then we could further expand on this as a community and provide even more feedback, because everybody's different. This is just like my thoughts on it. I'm dropping this link again for the stage if anybody did want to come up. I'm going to pull another question out of chat here, and then I'll go back to the marked ones. Doing great. Thanks for your genuine dedication. Yeah. Awesome. Oh, 24 hours. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I'm not even sure about that one. Thank you, Cybercycle, by the way. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's all about community. I mean, it's way too difficult to break in, and even just understanding these concepts. And not only newcomers to the industry, but even practitioners as well. It's that continued education and community. All right, so now the next question that I have lined up here. So B-Dubs dropped this, I think, prematurely. Smart goals 100. Oh, smart goals 100%. Yeah, I added that in there. We have one from Cybercycle. So I planned and parked this with the market, but I'm going to pursue the CGRC. My goal is to learn from the structure of self-study, which has been a majority of how I learned in my career. Yeah. Yeah, and like the CGRC, I mean, I think it all depends on your pathway and so forth. That was previously called the CAP, which I still see job resumes calling it the CAP. It's going to take a couple more years for them to change that around. I looked at the CAP before, or the CGRC before, and it looks like a almost replica of the 837. So if you look over the objectives for the CGRC and you look at the 37, like there's a lot in common. So it's not bad at all, but I don't plan on adding more associations on my list. AB mentions, I remember talking about colors during my talk at SCCon 24. Yeah, I think that's probably in reference to like the color coding, probably, or maybe that's has to do with like influence based on colors. Cybercycle mentioned I'm going to consider the ISC2 content too. I typically forge through some info. I just wish the exams weren't $600 plus. Yeah, and that's the key thing. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, don't go off and pay $800 or $600 for this certification. Just make sure you have that ROI on it, the return on investment. I'll drop this other link here too in a moment. So there is. So Graham Helton, who also runs that radar thing that we talked about before, has this really awesome article called the Certification Industrial Complex. It is a very great read. I highly recommend it. And what its basic premise is that a lot of these different companies and so forth, their intent is to make money, of course. And boy, do they. But that doesn't mean that they're a no-go, of course. Like, it's still recognized in industry. They still hold some value to it, but you need to like do your research on it and don't feel pressured to do it either. Like, I'm not going to bash on anybody who goes off and gets a certification. I just wish that more people would go through and do the research and make sure that, oh yeah, this is going to be valuable in my career, or I'm going to get my money's worth out of that. I have certifications on my list, like the CIPP. I'm going to take that CISA when I have the experience requirements for it. I'm probably going to grab another 2 or 3 other ones. But you just got to look at that ROI and see if it's going to be worth your investment on it. And he has a video at the top of that article for the Certification Industrial Complex. But if you read the whole article, it goes into way better detail because he was kind of on a time limit for that. Let's see this next one. So this is the last one that was lined up. So Rania mentioned all my ads lately are learning AI prompting because it will make you a millionaire overnight. Yeah, that's not surprising. And quite honestly, like I mentioned AI, I think one time in this discussion, and AI is a great tool. I did a video on that too and how I use it. But there's just so much out there for it. Yeah, and I did see PBO in chat. The professor. Oh, and Flakinator mentions right here that, let me pull it up here. You need to be careful not to overcert as well. So there's a whole thing with overcerting, getting too many. Like I've talked to people who go through WGU and they come out with, I don't know, a dozen certifications from like CompTIA and so forth. I'm not saying like I'm going to go over and overcert, because like those are long-term goals. Like I'm not even going to be taking that CISA for 3 or 4 years. So like this is in the long term. And then even in the long term, like in 10 years or whatever, I could see myself with maybe 4 certifications or so. But also, hopefully, employers pay for that. Because if employers pay for it, I'll even take the CISSP, even though it's never on my list. Oh, yeah, and Larry's calling for the study group PBO. PBO's got to get his stuff together. And so I'm going to go back real quick and just try to review this real fast. Go ahead and drop more questions or otherwise. Let me know if you need that link again. I just wanted to review the chat because I kind of feel bad for missing half of the entire conversation here. So, and if there's anything that I haven't mentioned so far, like just let me know. You could say it again. I want everybody to feel comfortable to come up if you would like to. But you are not required to do so. Worst case scenario, I can keep the conversation going. Yeah, it's looking like it was covered pretty well there. I see a conversation earlier. So B-Dubs dropped the infosecmap.com, but also was talking about eyeballing the ISACA certs, or at least ISACA itself. I have full intentions on only sticking with ISACA and IAPP. That's my goals. Oh, and then we have PBO sneaking in here. All right. I skimmed a good majority of it. Oh, and we have a couple more marked out now. Awesome. So, Flekinator, I mean, more for somebody trying to break into industry. Many places don't want to see somebody with a bunch of certs and no experience. Yeah. Yeah, and I might have not explained it the best way. But yeah, I don't have the intention on over-certing on getting a bunch of certifications before getting into industry and otherwise. I see the same thing, like talking to people from WGU that struggle to get a position because they just freshly got out of college and have all these certifications, but then they take 6 of them off and now they're getting interviews.
That's my thing. You should customize your resume for the position. So,
yeah.
Sometimes I have my MBA, sometimes I don't.
Okay, that might be a little bit more serious when you're looking at it that way.
Well, some people
take your MBA off.
Yeah, some people think I'm coming for their jobs. I'm not trying to manage anymore. Especially I'm older, so I think some younger people think I'm trying to come take their job. PBL trying to get his hours. Don't go into the office. Just send my direct deposit. B-Dubs, this is her world. She young. She trying to take it over, man. I'm just trying to get to retirement.
I mean, I'd like to feel younger.
It's all relative. Once your kids get a little older, you'll be a whole new you.
I mean, I do have a
I'm sure.
So
yeah, and I can see your perspective there, Dwight, but I think it's unfair to look down on people, not inside of that organization yet. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm waiting for you to start your study group, Dwight.
Facts.
For the CIPP.
Let's start on my list.
Yeah, I can still make fun of PBO. What were you mentioning here, B-Dubs?
You were saying about the chat being mostly marked, but you wanted to double check.
Oh yeah, of course.
You're doubting me.
Skim back over it.
Thanks.
Doubting me. I had it.
I feel bad because I wasn't looking at chat for 25 minutes.
You missed all the fun conversation, me stirring the pot up a little bit.
Right, so everybody's signing up for B-Dubs boot camp.
I don't have a boot camp. I was joking.
It's like
so is that? Yeah, so everybody let me know, so was this all just a disguise? She just decides to volunteer to be in the backstage while I present so she could just sell you guys a boot camp?
Shout out to the boot camp.
Started
because that's what it started to sound like.
No, it started when Rania, I don't even know where the comment was, but talking about her AI ads making you a millionaire. So nice. I was feeding off of that with, have I told you how you can make 7 figures in 90 days with my boot camp?
Facts.
Yeah, and
my bad.
Jim McDonald asked who else was studying the CGRC. I think that was Cybersecurity who was talking about how that was on their roadmap.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Let's see. Yeah, CPEs. I honestly, I think CPEs are the easiest thing. CPEs are simple to get, is what Fleckinator was saying.
Join the Daily Cyber Threat Brief.
Yeah, most people wait till the last minute.
That'd be me.
Yeah, I think I had all 50 of my Sec Plus CPEs submitted like within 40 days of obtaining the certification because I knocked out courses. So,
but you have to pay to submit them, I'm pretty sure. So, no, I haven't even looked at it.
It depends on the organization.
It does. Yeah. I haven't even looked at it, but I don't know.
So I know for the Sec Plus, it's $50. I think it's $50 every 3 years. So.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to renew my certs. I'll just catch another CompTIA beta test, and it'll renew all my CompTIA certs.
Oh, and Dwight says that ISAC is, going to break his kneecaps over here.
Why is he on the money, man? What's going on, Dwight? Why you?
Oh, is that for the CPEs, maybe?
Just break out that gold card, man. That triple platinum card you got.
There you go.
Oh, I love this comment here. So Cybercycle, I think the point is all certs are being oversold for value, i.e. risk. That's an interesting way to put it.
A lot, but what I see a lot of times is because HR sucks. They using that you to get through the scanner. You got to have certain, certs to get through the scanner now. So all them renewals.
Yeah. I mean, and that's also where like the networking portion comes in, and that's where looking at the ROI comes in, because like you have to do research on like where you want to go. So I think that's the hardest part because there's no standardization. So if you're going into the private space, does the company want you to have that CISA and they're willing to hire you with no experience? Like that's
no.
Yeah. But you see that all the time where they on entry-level applications for entry-level pay, and they're requiring these like the CISSP.
True, but I think that's because everybody's over-certed now. So I go to LinkedIn, everybody getting a cert. Every 2 days, somebody's getting some kind of cert. So I think I'm not gonna say quite losing its value, but I think it's become, for me, maybe because I'm old and grumpy, it just seems like white noise on LinkedIn. I'm like, man, everybody got a cert today.
It's the same.
I'm part of the problem.
It's the same stuff that happened back in the 2000s when I first started out. Mm-hmm. Basically, all these places were pushing certs. Yeah, like I mentioned right here in this thing is, I remember them pushing the MCSE 2000. Like, hey, get this, and you'll be making $80K when you come out. It's the same garbage that's being pushed now. Just the number of the pay is slightly different, and it's just as meaningless and just as useless as it was back then. Not to say the certs are useless, but they're just pushing it.
Shout out to Novell Network.
Useful because of brand reputation. Yeah, go ahead, PBO.
Yeah, Novell was the hot network before people. So I was Novell engineer for a while. Like he said, you get this cert, you're gonna make about $75,000. That was incorrect. The cert I got that made me my first money was Oracle DBA, because I programmed and I became an Oracle DBA and got the Oracle bag, as the kids say. So it's PB. Am I low? Do I need to talk louder? I'm kind of
you're loud.
Okay, that's why I'm always loud. Somebody sit out. The host
sounds like muffled to me.
Do it. What I sound like, B-Dubs? You think I sound muffled?
I think you sound great. I think that's a Chris problem.
Come on, Chris.
Do
I need to go into the incident response mode?
Incident response.
Maybe.
I'm doing that in the class. We're going to automate it.
I hear some fuzz and stuff on you, Chris, but everyone else seems fine.
Really?
Come on, Chris, get it together.
From the stage for the first time ever.
When you turned on the music at first, I heard a little feedback and stuff with it when you were speaking, and then it seemed to fix itself. So I don't know.
I'm going to turn the music off. PBO, do your thing and talk.
Check 1, check 2. Like I'm about to say some bars for GRC. Start a GRC rap. Check 1, check 2.
God. Yeah, I'm not doing that on a live stream. If you guys want to catch me rapping a rap song for GRC Mafia, then you guys are going to have to join our Discord community.
I'm in
because
there.
that did happen inside of our voice chat.
Oh, Space
Yes.
Taco says I sound good. Shout out to Space Taco. I'm excited about her talk. I'm already pre in the queue. I'm in there.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people are posting about certs and all the other fun stuff. I just wanted to mention, I know for me personally, for the job hunt thing, which is still ongoing, but for the job hunt thing, when I had my resume organized with my work experience at the top and projects and stuff towards the bottom, I got pretty much 0 calls, 0 responses when I was going for cyber stuff. But the moment I flipped it, because granted, my experience is all IT, like 20 years worth, but none of it was officially cyber, I cared. So when I flipped it and put projects up top, and those projects were stuff like the project that Study GRC did and a few other things, all of a sudden people started giving me phone calls. I don't know if it's just because of what was now at the top opposed to before. I don't know, but I'm just saying, at least for me personally, it helped.
Yeah.
I apply to certain jobs, so I'd be spearfishing. So I just apply to a certain set of jobs.
Me too. I've been going for GRC and possibly like entry level audit stuff just to get in there.
I apply. It's going to be NIST and IRS Pub 1075. So that's kind of what, even in a GRC perspective, that's kind of what I drill down to.
Smokey, I went ahead and turned on the labels for everybody, so now we get our names up. And so that's Flakinator, the other one with the glasses.
I'm PBO.
Mine don't do that.
So I need some glasses. I can't see. I'm over squinting. So yeah, so I kind of really pinpoint to I like to say auditing, assessments, especially NIST 800 and IRS Pub 1075. I've been doing IRS Pub 1075 for 20 years. That's crazy. I just thought about that. My last six jobs was IRS work.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of you guys over there in the GRC talk in Black Hills today too. That was pretty neat. We were able to vote in our own GRC Mafia channel in Black Hills Information Security Discord.
GRC Mafia is taking over.
Yeah, GRC Mafia is expanding.
Did they create an actual channel for that there or no?
Oh yeah.
Yes, they created one for GRC Mafia.
I joined their Discord.
Deb Wigley created it for us.
That's
Shout
cool.
out to Deb.
We'll have to go in there and hang out.
I'll go ahead and drop a link to their Discord.
Yeah, I'm have to go in there and hang out.
Yeah, I just know I hit 20 for Hackett with them today.
Nice.
Yeah.
Correct.
I'm only at
working on 50.
So I'm hoping to get 50 before the year's out because this is it. They said after 2025 they're done. They're stopping the whole hacking program. Yeah.
Oh no.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I'm gonna get it this year.
Yeah.
I've already got several. I don't know how many.
Stopping it. Did you all get your badge? I'm going to go ahead and drop that in chat too. We have this other command for badge.
So, well, all right. So, like Chris, you have 2. I don't know how many you have, Dubs. So on Monday, I think it's 4:30. They do a stream where they do the news. If I remember right, that counts for Hackett, and then the Thursday stream that you were in today counts for Hackett. So if you do 2 of them each week, you theoretically should be able to get to 50 before the year's out. Or
I've been
really close.
Doing a couple a week.
Yeah. Well, you have to remember the Wednesday one. If you go to the Wednesday thing, which is the anti-siphon, and that does not count.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I know at 10 they gave you some stickers, which I had to battle my daughter for. And you get like a couple like comics. At 20, I get a T-shirt, some pencils. I think I get like a Hackett button as well. Might have been one other thing in there.
And I was excited when I ordered T-shirts because I got the GRC ones that they got, and I got stickers along with it as an added bonus. So I was happy.
I like it because all that stuff I just mentioned was free from them. So
yeah,
they just, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and like I posted in the Discord earlier for Study GRC, I actually registered for like 3 different ones for anti-siphon coming up. So
yeah. So
I
for
recommend it if you
Smokey,
guys have the time.
so for Smokey, the way from my understanding, the way it works is the Monday stream at like 4:30, where I think it's talk about news. I always miss that one, unfortunately, just because of stuff going on. That one counts to Hackett, and the Thursday one, it's usually at 1 p.m. Eastern time. That one also counts for Hackett. The one on Wednesday is considered anti-siphon, not actually Black Hills. So the way Jason Blanchard explained it is that one does not have the pass-through and link-in stuff for Hackett. So that one does not work. We only learned that when tons of us kept bombarding the anti-siphon stream on that Wednesday in the Hackett group for Hackett. Like, we're sorry, that one doesn't count.
Do they have so what I did is I just went into their Discord, and at the very top they have the events. And what I did is I actually exported those and put them on my personal calendar. But I don't think they have like a Google Calendar or anything, do they?
So they changed it this year. So it used to be that I think maybe because I did 1 or 2 of them, I was getting an email every week telling me, hey, this one's coming up, that one's coming up, and then I can register. After I register, I then get an email saying, you go add this to your calendar. Now, instead, what they did is to streamline it. They send out, I think it's 1 email a week. So like maybe Monday, an email will go out telling you the 3 or 4 things that are going on, and then you can click through to it. So I usually register because I know some of them, if you register some, you get, they'll actually, I think, send you a certificate saying, hey, you did this. Here's 1 hour class done, which counts towards a CP. So.
Nice. And then we have this question here. So that's good information though, because like I've actually registered with like 6 different emails before. So I don't, my real email doesn't actually get anything. But yeah, good information though. So for those of you who have had GRC roles, has a majority of your work been contract work? Would you say that you are more likely going to have to take a contract as your first opportunity?
I guess I'll start. It's yes and no. It's weird. A lot of times when you do government work, they want you to go through one of their subs, then they kind of test you out for 6 months, then they bring you on, and that contracting company gets a fee. That's kind of been my last 3 or 4 jobs, kind of been that way. I actually like it that way, to be honest. So that's kind of what I see a lot. A lot of small vendors got contracts with the government. So I think there's kind of a new way, because I think, especially in government, I think it's hard to fire people. So I think they usually, once again, go through a small company, it's usually contract for hire, and after 6 or 7 months, they're either going to bring you on or you're going to get fired. So that's kind of what I've seen, kind of that big state, big federal space.
Did anybody else have a input on that? So,
I mean, I don't have a GRC job, but I can only say that the previous 2 that I interviewed for, both of them were specific for they were contract to hire. It was flat out with companies, which I guess was a little
like
surprising.
All of the people,
yeah.
Yeah, I would say that there's a pretty good mix of it and so forth. Like there are a lot of people. With the people that I've spoken to, I would say that people who started out with a contract position are more likely to keep continuing contract position. I'm actually talking with somebody now who they've been doing contract positions, and then their contract ended, and now they're trying to find work, and they're actually having imposter syndrome because they're so used to contract work and not actually being full time with a company. So now they're like, can I even do that? I'm like, you have like 10 years of experience. What do you mean you can't do that? You've been doing the same job. Like,
yeah, I thought contract.
What do you mean?
I thought contract work was harder.
Yeah. And each one is a little bit different too, is my understanding, based on like how you track your hours and whether it's like actually 1099s. Like I've also seen contract work where like you're a fourth party. Like and it's different as well. So yeah.
Yeah, so I've seen it a few different ways, but for me, I am employed. I don't do contract work, so full time in GRC, not 1099. So it could go either way.
Yeah, and I was talking to one of my other younger buddies. You say B2B is. I tell people it's different levels to this, right? So I'm a senior guy, so I usually work for a mid-level consulting company. I'm not 1099. I get W-2. I get health benefits, right? I get the full thing. Where some of younger people, they're like, we're going 1099. You like you're indentured servitude almost, right? So everything. So it's different levels to the contracting companies. And once again, so when I work for a contracting company, usually mid-level, I usually get great benefits, great help, 401k. So I get the whole shebang. So two is
and then Rhonda mentions in chat that federal space recruiters noting that it's been oddly quiet since August. Maybe that's in regards to like the open roles or otherwise.
I think people trying to figure out and I'm gonna try to say this appropriately, Chris. I think people worried about the new administration to figure out what's gonna get cut. So I think people are trying to settle that till that wash out. Because I know some people have some open roles and they're like, let's pump the brakes for a minute to figure out, because they're gonna try to do a lot in the first 100 days. So I think people are trying to wait for that first 100 days, because I think you get the most momentum, and the Doge team is coming into full effect. So I think a lot of people are kind of chime in on that, Fleck. And what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That was when was it Rhonda who posted that one? Yeah, about the federal workers. My first thought was right away, like even before the election, because the thought would be is you have to wait to see what's going to happen, and then after it happens, no matter which way it went, you then have to think about, all right, what's it going to look like? Because no matter who came in, it's going to change.
Yeah,
because it's a different person. It's going to change.
Yeah, but I think this administrator talking about cutting a lot of jobs. Correct. I think the last bit of it would have went standard. I think it would have been standard quota, standard flow. But
yeah.
Well, and I've heard the exact same thing about previous administrations as well. Is that these different agencies, they're changing a lot of different leadership and so forth. And so, like Stefan has mentioned, who has recruiting experience and so forth, and he looks at all the statistics and shares that in Simply Cyber's Discord once in a while. Yeah, great dude to follow on LinkedIn because he posts about that kind of metrics. And he showcased one a few months back where like typically it's like that first and second quarter where the jobs pick up, in the end of the year where it's like dead. So when you look at the two in comparison, but also we're still in a recovery process too from like COVID and everything else. So yeah, I think there's a lot of different variables, but yeah, I think a large portion of it has to do with the administration change.
And two is a lot of times I think it should be picking up because a lot of people fiscal year ends in December, so you get your new budgets kind of at the first of the year. Yeah. It's weird that they use their budgets in June or at the first year. So I think a lot of government agencies get their budgets around January, and the following year you usually figuring out these are the roles, these are what we're trying to hire, these are new. You kind of know who's retiring. So I thought it would start picking up around February, but
another thing well about government work, that nothing against the government or the work, is that a lot of times, like if I applied for a job now and they reached out to me and said, hey, all right, we're going to start that process, it could be like 3 to 6 months.
It is.
And and it's one of these like, well, probably within that amount of time, someone's going to find something else. And again, who knows what's going to change?
Yeah, I was lucky where I kind of knew my contract was ending. So when she reached out to me, we kind of knew that it was going to take like 4 months. So we kind of synced those up. But like you said, if you're looking for something ASAP sometime, and that's why I think people do that contract to hire. Shout out to A. Johnson. I think that's what he said in there. So I think that's why you go. It's weird. You can get hired as a contractor much quicker than start working at there. then after your 6 months, right, they will hire you. But I think that's one reason a lot of people go contract to hire. Did R Square say she was contracted for 17 years?
Yeah, I think she did. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so Rhonda said that she was contracted for 17 years with the government, and she was W-2. And that's one of the interesting things that I've noticed about the space is that there's multiple different ways of contract.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and you get a mixture of it. So, and then also those contracts are negotiable as well, and they can vary. I don't know about the federal government. Those probably have certain set policies for that. But in the private space, I've seen a pretty big variance.
It's called a plan. Usually you have a range for your job role. Then the company is there. They want to make at least 60% of that of that pay. So then you got to fit yourself in there. So.
Well, and to be honest, contract work sometimes is a great thing, especially if it's, I think I want to go into GRC or I think I want to go into this. You can do contract work because if it turns out you do it 6 months and you don't like it and you leave, you want to go somewhere else, you still can put it on the resume when someone's like, oh, well, we were only there 6 months. Well, yeah, it was just a contract. It was a contract job, so it doesn't also look as bad, though, to be honest, it's not a big deal. Unless unless you have like 10 jobs listed and they're all 6 months each, then that's something you have to question. But one or two, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. And I wanted to pull this up too, because I just love the fact that she states 86th.
I saw that.
I like that.
I like the term too.
But yeah. And then there was another one pinned here too. So Bentech states that he currently has a good job, security and government job as a social worker, but wants to transition into GRC. Doesn't want to take a contract and then be kicked to the curb. And it's a second part. So then he says, but I would like to think that if you do a good job in a contract, you are more likely going to get more work and build a reputation.
Well, there's different contracts in tech. A lot of times the one I take, they tell you it's contract to hire. So you know up front that it's going to be 6 to 9 months. And if you do a good job, the role you have is going to turn into a permanent role. So,
yeah.
I mean, I really do understand though where people are coming from, especially with the way this job market is. Like, it could take you 6 months, a year, or more to find a job, and it would stink to get that job, be there for like 3 months or 6 months. The contract then ends, and now it takes you another 6 months to a year to find the next one.
And a question you need to ask is. And I know a lot of contract companies do this. They tell you, we have a 5-year contract. That is true, but they're renewable every year in the 5-year. And when I first got hired, they didn't tell me. They said, oh, yeah, we have a 5-year contract. Once I got hired, they were on their last year of a 5-year contract. So it'd have been nice if they would have told me that. I wouldn't say I got lucky. They were good vendors, so they rewon the contract and they got another 5 years. And I got to work the additional. Actually, I ended up working additional. They wanted 5 years. Long story short, I worked 11 years at DOD. But you need to ask them, how long is the contract and what year of that contract you would be in? And I really wanted to punch the guy because I thought that was almost unethical. You tell me it's a 5-year contract, but you didn't tell me it was the last 6 months of the 5-year contract, right? So,
well, yeah. I would agree with you, PBO, that was probably a little unethical because I know when I first started, I worked for a company. I won't mention the name, but they would get like a 5-year deal. And then I think it was always around year 3 was when negotiations would then start for a renewal to see if they could get it. But they would almost always mention, oh, yeah, well, we have a 5-year contract. We're currently in like the second year, or we're in year 4, negotiations are going well, kind of, or whatever, because that's kind of not fair to not let people know. And I mean, even when we were working for them, they would let us know when we were on that, whatever that particular company we were contracted to, they would let all of us that were out there know because we're on that contract. So they would say, hey, so we're in, guys, this is year 3. We're going to start the negotiations right now. We're just kind of letting you guys know. We have no idea how it's going to go. We're hoping to win it. We want it. And they do enjoy what we're doing, but you still don't know.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I was on a contract. The prime lost the contract, but the new prime hired all the subs back in. So it's catch. Yeah. So, but the problem is a lot of times is the prime underbid it, so they want to cut everybody's bill rate and cut your pay. I'm like, nah, I ain't going for that. So, but that's part of the negotiations, just kind of figure out what's going on. So that's kind of the bad part about government contracting.
Well,
the cool thing though is my pay was a lot higher than when the feds offered me a job. My contracting bill rate was higher than my W-2 government bill rate. So.
Though, I have to say, PBO, with the way that like we have Meta, Facebook, whatever you want to call them, and all the other companies, they're just like at the drop of a hat going, well, we're going to just lay off this amount of people or whatever. 100%. I mean, is it a whole lot better to not be a contractor compared to when this job market? It's it's like it sometimes feels like, who knows.
But we looked those up one time. The pay rate for the fangs is crazy. I told you I interviewed AWS. It was like, what did we look up, Chris? Was it 370? It was some crazy number when we looked up that Amazon AWS security engineer or GRC.
Oh yeah.
Come on.
So like it was like what, L6 or something like that. It started at like 370 and went up to like 700K.
Your bonus every year was like 80 grand. I only need to work on that like a year and a half. You can fire me. I don't need much. I need about 2 years of that, and I'm good. So that I wouldn't put the FANG in there. But granted, you could work there, like you said. They're gonna lay off 30,000 people, right? I only need 2 years of 400,000. I'm good. I could go sit down for another 3 if I got 2 of that. But but yeah, that pay was unconscionable. I'm just gonna leave that alone. But I'm with you, Flakenator.
So if anybody else has any questions or other topics that you guys want to bring up too, definitely drop those. Feel comfortable do so. I'll drop the stage link as well. And then I just pulled up the calendar and dropped that link in the chat as well for the most accurate, up to date, because we have several things lined up for next week, including the 850. So a video just about the 850, because we briefly touched on that. And then also the 812. I don't believe we've actually talked about the 812 at all. I did mention that to PBO, and he started drooling. So we'll see how that goes next Wednesday.
Yeah, shout out to Joseph. He said it. The worst is the year-to-year contract. But the crazy thing is, and I asked the guy about this at DOD, he said, we used to do 5-year contracts. They're so hard to break that.
Yep.
We just make them renewable every year. So if you mess up, we just need to wait for that year to roll up, then we can cut you. Termination of convenience. We don't owe you nothing. We don't have to argue. It's just built in a contract. So our government contracts, even if they're 10 years, they're renewable every year. So you can break them with no penalties or anything.
Yeah, I know the company that had the 5-year. I think after 3, if the company they were contracting was really unhappy, they could break it then and not have to, whatever.
Yeah.
So as for pay, I saw one job. I think it was actually it said junior. I think it was for a junior CISO or something weird. And the pay range was $90K to $500,000. And I'm like, that might be the biggest pay range I've ever seen listed on a job. And I'm like,
yeah, we saw one for Netflix. It was a privacy engineer. It was like 100 to 700. It was something crazy like that. I was like, come on.
Yeah.
I'll take it in a minute. Just give me that even 350. We'll be good. 350.
Bam.
Yes, man.
And then also congratulations to Casa Gador. I'm butchering that horribly. Everybody knows I'm bad at names, but I have to practice, is what Space Tacos mentions.
Right.
For not only joining the Discord, but also earning your badge. Bam.
Yeah, it's Space Tacos. Those FANG jobs. I still might try again once the market kind of shake out. I might try the AWS one more time, because somehow I got in the engineering bucket and not in the GRC bucket. I think they smashed everybody in the engineering bucket. So
you got to patch it, PBO. You got to patch it.
I was trying, man. My skills went engineering level. Now GRC it, I would have killed the game. Would have GRC it.
That's kind of fun. Especially if it was that 53.
Facts.
Was there anything else that you guys want to bring up, or you see anything in chat?
I was going to comment on Rhonda, like, yeah, the ranges they put up, at least there's a range, Rhonda, opposed to when there's a job posted with nothing. I hate when there's a job posted and there's not even anything. Like at least put something in.
Yeah, I hate that too. I always feel like I'd be underbending myself because I'm in remote hell competition. So I usually take a little less money if I could work from home for me. So I need to negotiate a little better too. I don't.
Hey, PBO, which FANG job are you going to try first?
I'm gonna go back to the AWS. I
Nice.
feel my certs are in AWS. I'm comfortable. We're gonna start labbing in AWS using Security Hub and all their GRC tools. So that's gonna be my goal. Because once Chris brought that up, I almost start crying. A tear came in my eye that I missed out on that 80. I haven't really cried since my mama died, but that losing out on that 370, a little tear welled up in my eye, man.
Yeah, PBO is ready to put on a suit and go to work every day.
Facts. I'm gonna squeeze into it.
You know what, man? If someone was going to pay me $370K a year, I'd go into the office and put on a suit. I think for it. Yeah.
I'd go in the office, but I ain't putting on a suit.
Yeah, they were talking about stock options. I think the stock options every year was like 100 or something. It was crazy.
Yeah, I'm good.
Restricted stock options every year. I was like,
I totally would. I'd stay there long enough to make sure everything was fully vested, and then boom, I'm gone.
I think it was 4 years to vest, but you keep getting 100 every year. So in your 5th year, you know, so it's like 25. So I was like, I only need about 2 years of this, and I'm good. I need about those years.
Yeah, I think this is I don't think that they were positioning this as a question per se, but I think this is an interesting shout out as well. What are your guys' thoughts and like insights or recommendations when you get asked this? Because this is extremely common, not only in applications but also during the interview process. Like, how much do you want to make? You know, how much do you make now? How do you guys handle that situation?
I know for me, I always want to say, well, I'd like to make $1.3 million, but we know that's not going to happen. So, I mean, to be honest, I think the best thing to do is make sure you have a log somewhere of all the different jobs and what the pay range might be that they list, right? Because you don't want to be like, oh, I'm cool with like 50K, you know, when the job starts at listing it at 6. Like, you want to at least know what the range is they listed to make sure you're not going to be like way above it or way below it. The other thing is, then I think, what is it, Glassdoor?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Red door, glass door, one of the doors.
Glassdoor also.
One of the doors.
Yeah, something with a door. I think it's Glassdoor will list.
I thought it was red door. Go ahead.
Glassdoor, I think, has it where you can put in what the job title is, and the nice part is you can even be like, "Hey, I'm in Florida," or "I'm in, Alaska," or wherever, and it'll then adjust that range for roughly where you are as well. So, because we all know if you're in California, it's going to be way higher pay than if you're like out in the middle of nowhere in the Midwest. It's just it's just because of cost of living.
Thanks. But too, when you interviewing, you should, like he said, you should kind of know what that pay range is and kind of where you fit in. I kind of know where I want to be than the size of the company I'm interviewing with. So, and like you said, my bad. You were correct. It was Glassdoor, not Red Door.
Dude, that's a different show, PBO.
My bad. But so yeah, you should kind of know that range. And two, a lot of times is, like you said, with Glassdoor, there's other site. I could dig it up. Somebody told me where you can go out there and put people from that company actually put their salary out there. I think B-Dubs and Chris Whitlock's generation or more into salary transparency. In the 80s, if you told somebody your salary, your ass was getting fired. So I haven't shaken that out quite yet. So a lot of people
changed.
Yeah, a lot of people are more salary transparent. I'm old school. I'm like, I'm gonna get fired if I tell you it. So, but no, so you can get that information. Long story short, pretty easily for the company, the range, and like Blackinator said, for your region. So,
well, and it's actually good that it's changing because, right, if all three of us doing the same job, but one of us is making 100K, one's making 60, and the other one's making like 52.
That's not cool.
But we're all doing the same job. It's like, yeah, like that's not cool. Now it's different if I come in and I have no experience, and the two of you guys have more experience. All right, you probably would be, like a mid or senior, and I'm an entry, so that makes sense. But if we're all, for the most part, the same, we should all pretty much be making the same within maybe like a couple dollars of each other. And that's, I think, why a lot of companies don't like the fact that people are starting to become more open about it. They hate it for that reason.
No, I agree. But I think, which I struggle with, at consulting companies, their margins were so high on the bill rate. It was just astronomical. So when I switched to a medium-sized company, I knew the guy. He just basically told me, he said, dude, they're robbing you. I'm going to give you a $30,000 raise. I was like, really? He was like, they're robbing you. I was like, but that was my first big jump. So I went from like 40 to 65. I bought me a Toyota convertible. You could tell me nothing. But like you said, when you start talking and communicating, the guy was like, nah, man, your bill rate's this. I'm going to make sure you get 70% of your bill rate. They were giving me like 40%. I didn't know it. So
that's not cool.
No, I had that when I started. Me and a guy, one of the
breaking out a little bit.
I am?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I think you're back.
You're back.
Just a second. So, yeah, you're good.
Yeah,
go ahead.
It was me and another guy. We were working together on on a contract we were on for a huge pharmaceutical. We were contracted to. We were two of a few people on site, and a project came up, and the guy comes. He's like, "We have this one guy working on. We could use one of you guys also to jump on." He's like, "It's fine with us. We're making like $90 an hour on you guys, and the two of you together aren't even close to that." So, like, yeah, places that, and they don't usually want to disclose what they're making either, because they don't want the people to know, oh, you're getting paid like $15 an hour, but we're making 90 off of you an hour. Like,
yeah, my boss was cool enough to tell me the bill rate. He told me, I was like, oh my God, I'm getting robbed. So, but that's a learning.
Another reason they don't want us talking about the bill rate or the salaries that we're all earning is because sometimes that example you brought up earlier, Flakinator, between the three of us doing the same job for the same salary, if it's you and PBO and me, there's a solid chance that because I am a she, I will be earning less. Just because That's a thing that exists out there.
Facts.
So it also, something that's just like, I had an issue with this at one of the previous places I worked at, where the boss accidentally sent me the wrong spreadsheet, and so I all of a sudden knew the pay of all the people I worked with. And I ripped into him because I was making less, like hardcore ripped into him. And something else that can sometimes happen is the three of us could all be at the same job, but I could have been there 5 years. You could have just come in. BO in there 6 years, and B-dubs could have been there like 10. And we're all going to make different stuff. But the person who just came in will probably make more than all the rest of us.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
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 And
so that's another issue too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you guys nailed it right on the head from the get-go there, about doing your research and so forth. But yeah, I think it's kind of like a shady tactic to an extent, which is pretty much what you guys are saying too, is that they don't want to disclose it. They're hoping you do. So doing some of the research with it, I think, is really important. But I think it's kind of a difficult question in an interview, and I think a lot of people get stuck up on that. So, yeah.
As you get old, you just know the number in your mind. You just did your research, and for me, that's the number. I don't, it's the number I'm comfortable with. The number, so
yeah, and so my understanding is do your research on it. You want to aim high, so you have some wiggle room to move downward. But that's when you start getting into negotiation tactics, and it depends on whether it's entry level and what kind of company. I know a lot of companies that won't even negotiate, especially in this job market. So, yeah, you got to kind of balance everything there. But that also depends. There's so many different factors involved. But yeah, definitely do your research on the company itself. I think it's even better if you can network with somebody who works there.
Yeah, it is, because I also have a friend going through a situation now where he's an IT help desk guy, level, whatever the highest level is, he's there, and got a few job offers at other businesses. Other companies were coming after him, and I'm always like, if people are coming after you and saying, come on over here, you've done something right. And they ended up raising his salary to keep him there. And now he decided to stay. And now his supervisor is a little irritated with him, thinking that he just hustled them for more money. And it's like, no, bro, you guys are already lowballing me. You should pay me what I'm worth, because a level 3 help desk should be earning X amount of dollars. I was nowhere near that. And so now that you heard I wanted to try and leave, and now you're going to bump my pay to get me close to it, because he still didn't make it to market value. You're going to get me closer, and now you're going to get butthurt over the fact that I actually am now earning a little bit more, closer to what I'm worth. No, I don't want to hear any of that noise.
It's better to leave almost a lot of times, because it's weird, because if you get certs or a degree, most companies don't recognize that up and bump you. But if you leave with your degrees and your certs, the other company have raised you up quicker to that value. I see that a lot more. So a lot of times I wouldn't stay unless they're going to bump me up incredible. And two is, I like new challenges and new, stuff. So I always tell people, if the money's even, I know people like, go with the devil, go and get a new devil, man. Go on to the new job and start all over.
I mean,
I
agree. You really shouldn't stay.
I totally agree.
Yeah, reason being is they weren't going to pay you from the start. They didn't respect you at all enough to pay you what you should. And the fact that others are coming at you already, you just basically say, goodbye, I'm out. And we'll offer you more money. It's like, well, you should have done that from the start. No, thank you. Because as your friends are saying, now they're going to be annoyed because, well, we had to now pay you more to make you stay. But we didn't want to pay you that in the first place anyway. So is it worth it? Not really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, unless maybe you're talking about, the old job's 100% remote and the new one's not, and you really want 100% remote, like PBO wants or I want.
Yep.
Then maybe it makes sense, but they're still gonna treat you like crap the whole time. Now you're making a little bit more money, and it'll be a fight to bring more raises again. So it won't really matter.
Yep. Because now it's time for raises again, and it's a piddly little. Why did you even bother telling me amount?
Yeah.
So you got it.
Well, that's
you go for a fresh start. A lot of times people want to bump you up at the new job because it's a fresh start, and so that's why I always tell people. Because sometimes a couple of jobs I stayed a little too long. I got comfortable. I should have left, but so I think that
Well,
and also Cyber mentions here in Discord. So by the time they offer more money, the relationship's already soiled.
Yep.
Correct. No, it's true.
Yeah, and I just listened to a webinar the other day that was talking about this on the fact that, like, from a leadership standpoint, you need to identify like who your actual breadwinners are, and you don't want to let them sit, is what it was kind of talking about, on the fact that what a typical practice in corporate America is going through and being like, oh, well, we'll wait a year before we give a raise, or we'll wait 5 years before you get a raise. And the entire premise was, don't do that. If you have somebody who's doing a really good job, you should give sooner, give them more opportunities, move them up, things like that. That's kind of like the premise that it was going on.
The thing I shook my head for, and I tell everybody to do this in real life, is rank yourself on your team. Yeah. If you're at the bottom, you're going to be the first one fired if something goes wrong. So you need to know where you're at. And to be honest, I was on one team with a bunch of superstars, 11 of 5. I was like, damn, I think I'm number 9. I'm going to be down. But you got to know where you're at. So, because you can kind of tell, especially if you've been in this game, you can say, okay, it looks like the contract's drying up, or the project managers are acting funny, or people are not signing you work. You need to jump ship. Don't wait. Don't think about it. Don't ask no questions. Just go.
Yeah, straight cash.
Just go. So that's my 2 cents. That's kind of why I was shaking my head. I see a lot of people. I like, where was you ranked? They go, well, I never ranked myself. I go, especially in contracting, because it's a zero-sum game.
Yep. That's a good question on screen.
I mean, to answer that question,
how long should you wait around?
I think on average, a lot of people say 2 years is how long you should be hanging out at a place in IT. Honestly, I don't know what the correct answer is. I think there's so many variables to that. Now, especially also in this market at the moment, you stay until the market gets better.
Yeah, you park yourself 100%.
That's true.
In reality, you probably want to stay until the market starts to flip and turn itself back. But right, I mean, PB, you can answer better than I can, but if you're in a government job, you like it, it's working for you, and you are getting those incremental raises here and there, you might be good to stay there forever if it's something you really want to do. Like, it depends on the person.
It depends on where you're at in your career. Because when I was younger, I was getting big raises. I was jumping. My skill set was. But once you get to a certain level, your pay's up there. Your pay just ain't gonna be jumping like that. You got to jump into management. So, too, I think where you're at in your career and your skill set. Because once again, I tell people, once I became an Oracle DBA, that was hot in like 2008. So I was getting like 30 grand, raised 20 grand. Because those guys were, especially at DOD and government, Oracle DBA was kind of like, the hot cert back then. So
back in the day,
if you're a little later, like he said, you're comfortable, you government, you getting your standard 5-6%, and you at the top of the bandwidth, and you're already making 6 figures, right? You can just hang out and just chill and do your work and go home.
Yeah. So what I was going to premise to that previous question about how long you should stick it out, Space Tacos is kind of pushing me towards that direction on her question, is like the mindset on the long haul. And like what I was going to position is, I think a large portion of that should depend on how happy you are in that company. Is the company treating you well? Because I'm more willing to stick it out if I enjoy doing what I'm doing and working for that company. So, and I've been on both ends of that, on a really bad company, and I have to go line something up so I could put my 2-week notice in and find something else lined up. But I've also been at a company where I'm like, man, I'm relocating, and they don't have a location there. So, man, that sucks. So, and that was actually a really good job, because I actually put in like a 4-week notice with that company, and they knew I was leaving. And then they did an entire company retreat with the whole company at a golf course for a weekend, and I still left.
I think I think the long haul thing also depends too, because like Cybercasty, I guess, is, if I'm pronouncing this right. If not, I'm sorry. Like, he's been with his company for nearly 15 years, and there's nothing wrong with staying at a company 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So 50 seems like an awful long time. Because if you're a company that you really like, that's treating you well, and you're jumping from job to job, even within it, so you are getting your pay bumps, you're getting new experience, you're getting all this stuff. And as you guys both said, they're treating you well and it's working for you. There's nothing wrong with staying with a company for 20, 30, 40, 50 years in the same position itself. Probably not. At least not in the tech field. Probably not.
Well, yeah, and what I was going to also add to that portion is there's been a huge decrease because of a lack of companies doing pensions still. That's been taken back. So that and then also over the last 15 years, there's a huge decrease in people sticking it out for the long haul. They're moving jobs every 3 years or whatever. I know it's less than 5 years is the average time between one company to the next now. It's less than 5, which is completely different because back in the 90s, it was 22 years, I think, was the average.
Well, I'm thinking in that range. Then.
Yeah, or even before that. So the industry's changed a little bit. So I still believe that there's people doing that. But I think a large portion of that is because of the money. These generations is for the money. Yeah, I see the ones put in chat here. This is the next one, talking about 2 years works. Mm-hmm. Which one were you mentioning there, PBO?
I think that's it. And I think Flakinator said it is, you just don't see people going to 15 or 20 years because usually if you're at a medium to small companies, there's not a lot of job hopping you can do. So you get stuck, then you're going to get that standard 3%. Or if you jump companies, you can get 20, And a lot of times we just talked about it. When you get your degrees and certifications, most of the times your current company gives you a little bitty bump, but they don't respect it. Like if you went to another company with those same credentials, experience, and degrees, you can get a 20% jump. So that's why I don't think you see those 20s, 30s, and 50s anymore.
Yeah, and some of the information on that was talking about how, back in the day, people stuck with their company for the long haul because they depended on the pension, and they were comfortable and they liked the job security. And the industry has changed. The entire job market's changed away from that. Most people are in a position where it's an at-will. Maybe the position's not that secure otherwise, or they're not comfortable with it. And the money, I think more people are more focused on the money than the job security because there's jobs. So
money is security.
Yeah, well, and it depends on
True.
It depends on where you are too. So, like in the education area, like if you're working at like a college university, if it's a big one, there you might be able to jump all over the place in there and stay there basically for your entire career. Because I do have a friend, she's been there since she was like 18. And she's even gotten her undergraduate and her master's degree from the place, and they paid for it. And I don't even know. It's like she's been there probably 40 years or so, maybe more, because it's the nature of the place. You can go all around there because there's always something going on. There's always jobs. And I think they respect education a little more than corporate does. And the security might be better. It's hard to know.
No, it's definitely better. I taught at college. Yeah, I taught I was an adjunct professor for a decade. And like you said, if you become tenure or in there, you
can kill
stay there.
You're fine.
Yeah. I would never got tenure right because most of the time you got a PhD. But Larry gave me a shout out, talking about the dark side. I am thinking at my age, going back to the federal space, because like Chris says, there are one of few people where you can work 10 years and get a partial pension. So I was thinking, well, I need to go back and work.
Put another 20 years in?
No, you need 10. You get a partial.
But you might as well go for a 20.
Shit, I'd be damn near 80.
Come
man.
on, you got it.
No, so I've been kind of going back and forth, going back and working for the state or DOD and trying to get in there because I don't know. I just kind of go back and forth. Cybersecurity, forensic analysis. The other weird thing is business law. And back then they used to have a Microsoft desktop application back then. People don't teach that anymore because people learn that in high school, but that's what I used to teach. So and the thing you're like Chris, like this, I used to slide in NIST in my intro to cybersecurity. We talk a little about NIST and STIGs and that's all.
Well, now it's a lot less NIST and a lot more of that 1075 for the IRS.
Yeah. So
you mentioned that quite a bit as well.
Well,
I actually used that. Somebody did actually ask about like what controls you need to use when handling tax information, and I was like, oh, I know this one. This is like a document you should probably review, like somewhere around this area.
No, that's
the 1075. There you go. There's your controls. There's a whole section all about handling the records.
Yeah, we're gonna do it in the course. Shout out to the course. But so I'm thinking about trying. Maybe I go back and forth, get a partial pension, and because by the time I retire, ain't gonna be no Social Security. So I gotta come up with a plan.
You can't go wrong with it.
No, Zach, you don't need to be super technical to get in GRC. You have to be understanding of technology, but very technical, not super. I'm sorry. PBL dozing out. very, very no.
I would work on that too.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm very technical. Even in some of the interviews, it's been brought up about the fact that I am very technical. And for you, Zach, I think it can go either way. Some of the places I like knowing that someone's very technical, and I've tried to spin it, for me at least, that being very technical is great because it would aid me in meeting and discussing things with some of the departments and some of the groups. But there is no need for you to be very technical, because when you're going in there, whether it's auditing, GRC, or any of that kind of stuff, you're going to go and you're going to ask them questions. And if you don't understand it, you're going to ask questions until you do understand it.
Yeah, I'm doing that right now on an audit.
Yeah, it might take a little bit longer for you to understand it if you're not technical, but I don't see places really holding that against you anyway, because what job you do in audit GRC, not technical.
Flakenator,
you broke out on
up
that
a
last part.
You're breaking up again. Come back, Flakenator.
Oh, sorry.
Come back.
Just that last sentence.
But no,
the GRC role is not an audit. They're not typically technical jobs.
Fine.
So no one's going to hold it against you if you don't have a technical or very technical background. They will expect you to learn probably a little bit of it when you're talking back and forth with the department. You're going to have to learn a little bit of it so you know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But they won't, they're not going to expect you to walk in and be like, yeah, oh, you guys are coding this wrong. Let me show you how to do it. No, that's not going to matter. Though I'm sure there's been people, for some reason I'm looking at PBO, that have been like, yeah, let me do that for you. I got it. Step aside. I got this for you.
I've almost got a fist fight with a CTO before. Go ahead, Chris.
So the part that I wanted to add is, I don't think that you need to be overly technical, but the more information you have, the better off you are. I was going to shout out our Trello board. So if you go to our website on our resource page, you'll see these different Trello boards here. And what's useful with this is, like, if you go to the NIST CSF, we'll open that up, and then you can go through and look at the different controls. So if you can go through and you can identify, like, it talks about what a DNS is. It talks about firewalls and pen testing. Right. If you could go through and you could describe these controls out, then that's more than enough. To get started at least, but more the better, especially in the long term.
The only time I really use my technical is not from the GRC part, but from security, when you're doing modules or helping people connect to Active Directory securely. So we try to create a routine that people can call over and over, right? So that's kind of where my technical skills come in. But once again, as I get older, I don't architect stuff for people, right? People architect their stuff. My job as GRC is to make sure it's compliant with the IRS or HIPAA and HITRUST. So long story short, I re-architect this one guy. He took it as an insult. So I don't do that I don't do that anymore. And when I thought about it, I understand where he was coming from. He architected for his team skills, his skill set, what he was comfortable for. I just thought Oracle and Java was much more secure than .NET and SQL Server. But when I thought about it, I'm like, he doesn't have any of that skills on his team, right? So no, I don't architect stuff for people. I do compliance to make sure it's compliant for HIPAA, FedRAMP, or whatever that federal compliance is. So.
But you could architect for them.
I could, but most of the times you have a CTO that's getting paid to do that, right? So
correct.
They didn't pay me to be the CTO.
Like leads me to the port. Well, and so that leads me to my point is that I don't think that you need to be overly technical, but you definitely still need to have some technical.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, like the basics, like probably like A+. Yeah. At least you're A+. And you probably don't really need the certs, but because again, that's spending money but you should at least
you could study them without the cert.
Yeah, you should at least have the
we mentioned that knowledge. Before. Very good.
Probably a little bit of Net Plus knowledge, Server Plus maybe, the knowledge, not necessarily the certs. I can tell you they didn't really get too technical in the interviews I've done. I mean, they asked a little bit about stuff here and there, more from the GRC side, but they also knew that they were entry-level roles, so they also don't expect, like PBO is going to be asked some pretty technical GRC stuff where I wouldn't be because his experience compared to my experience in a job. Maybe PBO, right? Maybe.
Look, but the weird thing is, and I'm good about this, we're going to talk about that, is because I do, especially for NIST and IRS Pub 1075, they usually just say, can you talk about a program? And I just run it off and they don't ask me any more questions. So, right. So we go off we'll talk about this management versus technical, STIGs versus this. How would I do a compensating control? Have I ever done a compensating control? So I got one in my back pocket everybody likes. So those things you just kind of know, okay, if they couldn't do this, this is my compensating control, put it on different subnet, blah, blah, blah. Go ahead, Chris.
And kind of the point that I was getting at there is that I think it's way easier for you, PBO, because you've played both sides of the table.
Oh, facts.
Yeah.
More than both sides.
No
more
experience.
Than both sides. Yeah, go ahead. More than both sides.
Yeah, PBO's over here like spinning up, Linux servers and LAMP stacks and everything else in his sleep. So
I think this also is a really good time that we mentioned, because we haven't mentioned it during this stream, is when you're being interviewed, when you're all this stuff, if someone asks you a question you don't know, just tell them you don't know.
Yeah.
Because I can't speak about other industries because I've pretty much only been in IT, but it's usually pretty easy in IT when you ask someone a question, they don't know the answer. When they start answering it, they're making it up. It's pretty quick to tell when someone's faking it through in IT. It's also just better because it helps them know that if you don't know something, you're not going to just try to fumble through it. You're going to be like, well, look, I don't really know that, but I would, like if you have documentation internally, I would go there first. If it's something that's internal only the company, I would ask someone else. If it's not internal the company, I would Google it. Maybe this, sometimes I know when we used to do interviewing, we would purposely ask a question that we knew they couldn't answer because it was an internal only kind of question, because you want to see if the person will go, well, I don't really know. I've never heard of it, but I would ask someone. Yeah. You want to make sure that person will do their diligence and look stuff up.
Yeah, in that previous conversation we had, I actually ended up making a short out of that because it was actually you and PBO who were talking about that. And it was also mentioned on like what Space Tacos is saying here, that just mentioned like, oh, I don't know that thing. I don't understand. No, I don't know anything about that. But is that something I'm able to learn on this job? Like, I'd love to get into that. Well, so you could spin it more positively.
Well, and something I could also mention, because it even came up in the interview I did today that I was in, like when they asked about like doing a process or whatever, to me, which was also my first answer, is the first answer to me is always, well, I would first see if there's any documentation about it internally, always.
Yeah, I like that.
And of course, both through like, and there won't be. And I'm like, fair. Fair. There probably won't be. And I said to them, well, to me, to be honest, I would then create it because that's just who I am. And then I said, I would then Google it unless it's an internal only kind of like, you want to go through these steps and let them know this. Mm-hmm. Really important. Because you, PBO, have tons of stories you've even said where you'll ask someone something that, they probably don't know because it's way beyond their level, and you do it on purpose because you want to see if they're going to try to BS it or if they're going to go, look, I don't really know it, but I could learn it if I have, like if someone can teach it to me or there's stuff I'll learn it.
If I'm gonna ask them something, how do you do risk assessment on a Kubernetes worker node?
Was there like 4 people that could even answer that one? Maybe?
Oh, it's a lot of people. Okay. And that's one thing I got to get better at Kubernetes. That's the reason I said it. I'm weak on containers, and that's the hottest thing. But most people aren't going to, especially from a GRC perspective, they start making stuff up on the fly. Well, I will take the worker and run them. I'm like, dude, that don't even exist.
Yeah.
So can you throw up that question from Zach?
Yeah, I saw that one. I like that one.
Because I'd like to answer that one.
Go ahead. I'll let you take first shot.
I can tell you something really simple, Zach. And I actually told our cyber gangster, Jamie, who's interviewing this. To me, as an interviewer, which I've done some in the past, I don't care if you're technical or not. It's nice if you are, especially if you're going for a technical role. But if your personality is crap, I don't want you. Reason being is because you need to know that the person has a good personality and that they'll fit in with the team, as well as depending on what they're doing. Like if you're a desktop support person and in the interview you can barely speak, you're not coming across as kind of this person who knows how to talk to people, you're not going to want that person on the team because you need someone that can talk to people. So to me, soft skills are the best. because they are harder to teach. Yeah, I think I am.
No, you're not hurt my feelings. I'm fine.
Technical skills are great, but the soft skills are really important. Soft skills are harder to teach than technical skills. Not to say technical skills aren't important at all, but most people can learn the technical skills depending on the skills. But the soft skills are some of the most important. And be yourself during the interview. I remember sitting in an interview when we were interviewing someone. My answer to the team was, I don't want this person. I said no. They overruled me, and the person ended up not working out years later. But I said, look, this person came in. They don't seem to have a personality, which I think honestly was their interview personality, because they were different when they were in the role. I said, but I'm sorry, but we flat out asked the person, what's the biggest mistake you've ever done? And they said they hadn't done any yet. And they'd been in IT for like a decade or more. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that's a load of crap. Usually within the first month or two, you screwed up something nice. But at least within a year, you've screwed up something big time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how IT is.
Or they didn't give you any active responsibility.
That possible too, yeah.
I was also going to mention, like, I've talked to people who got roles in GRC with no previous experience strictly because of their soft skills. They had no previous experience at all, and they had an unrelated 4-year degree, but they got the position because they had very strong soft skills, and that's what they were looking for.
Correct.
So they were willing to be like, oh yeah, we can walk you through some of the process, but you have to be able to talk to people. Like, we're more worried about our culture than we are, training you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll say something for that. I'm not the person Chris is talking about, but I have a very unrelated degree or collection of degrees. I had 0 cybersecurity experience, and I got hired with my audit job right now based on the fact that I am willing to go out and learn all the things. And I presented the availability of offering information to people in a form that they prefer. So if they prefer a news article, I'm willing to go find that. If they prefer a short summary, I'm willing to go do that. If they prefer some video on it, I'm willing to go do that. So I think mine was based on the fact that I was willing to go out and literally learn all the things.
Yeah. Well, this is something, because I know there's a lot of people that are like, well, but my degree's in whatever, like I've done only sales, or I've only done, has nothing to do with IT.
That counts.
It doesn't matter, because any job, I mean, even if all you did was sweep up at nighttime doing work while you're taking care of your family, whatever it is, you still learn skills. You learned how to do your job, how to manage your time, how to follow directions of whatever was given to you to get the job done. That's a skill. Those are skills that are important no matter what other job you go to.
Transferable skills.
Correct.
My only slight pushback, and especially in the GRC world, he's 100% correct. Like, you got to go out and talk to people. You got to handle a lot of BS. You got to handle a little confrontation. Mm-hmm. So all of that soft skills. Coming from a technical guy, I work with some brilliant dudes that were on the spectrum, man. I just left them in the queue and they coded. I didn't have to talk to those dudes. They got their job on, and they wanted me to talk to the customers. I was like, I'll take them the requirements and they do them, and I'll take them to the customer, right? So it depends on what do you want that person to do, right? If I need you to hardcore code or spin up some Kubernetes stuff, and you just need to do that, I want you to be super technical. You just need to talk to PBO. I'll handle the rest, right? But from GRC perspective, you do need a ton of soft skills, because you're talking to people, and Space Taco knows a lot of times you got disagreement with teams. People don't like your findings. People don't like your mitigating controls. People thinking you making up requirements. So I think just where your soft skills come into play.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and at the end of the day, right, you have to come up also understanding about like audit and GRC as you can say these are the controls or recommend them, and the company still might give you the middle finger anyway and be like, we're not doing it. And if that's the case, that's fine. I just need, as you say, PB, I just need that in writing somewhere, so I'm not the one that's in trouble for it.
And I'll put it in the file. Yeah.
Like I just need to have it documented that so and so wrote this was written off on saying we're accepting this risk. Here's the documentation from whomever it is that needed to do it. Done. That's all.
Here's your risk assessment document. I just need you to put your signature on it. We're good to go. I'm gonna file it in the file.
It works.
Well, and so in regards to this question that's up.
I saw that.
Yeah, so what they were saying with this question that's up is that this is a question that they actually ask interviewees to see what their response is. So what is the reason for timestamps on documentation? That's a question that they're actually asking people.
Really?
Just to trip them up, see what they respond.
Is that a trip up? I had a real answer for it.
When I first saw it,
I was like, okay,
I would just
share it.
Yeah, what's your answer? Because I think I have one too.
I have nothing.
I guess I would have to figure out what is documentation. Space Tacos go when I think of policy as a documentation, so it needs to be timestamped because every year we're supposed to review it.
Yeah.
After 3 years, if there's no change, we still have to review it if it's never been touched. So I need to understand what documentation is he talking about. Is he talking about system documentation? Even that, I'm like, if it's 2020, I'm like, we ain't doing no updates. What's going on, man? So I don't. Maybe I've been doing this a little too long. Cyber.
And that's your finding. Yay.
So that's what I got. So I thought that was a real question.
Yeah, I would think it was a real question because to me, I would say like from a timestamp, like if you have the timestamps on all your documentation, to me that also would kick in of there's now been a breach. Not that you're ever supposed to admit to that, or whatever. You can reference back to, like, you know, when someone's like, well, I didn't, whatever, like, well, here's the documentation that also, you know, like, it's also another record of just
mute. B-Dub over there pounding on her keyboard. But go ahead.
Oh, my bad.
You fine. I Go ahead.
I was trying to be quiet too.
Yeah.
You might go to mute. That sounded like it was.
No, I think the timestamps and stuff is there just for like if there's breaches or whatever else, it lets you refer back to it to know roughly when certain policies were basically stamped with approval or whatever, as well as, like you said, there's a review process. So you at least need the date on it.
Yeah. So that's kind of
the timestamp seems a little much unless you're talking about like forensics. Then you do want the timestamps, but to me, I would probably ask when you're saying documentation, what kind of documentation are we talking about? Well, if they're asking me that question, I would go a little deep. Like, are we talking forensic documentation? Because if so, yes, you need to have your date and times all over that stuff. If you're talking about normal documentation, to me, I would think that just a date would be good enough.
Yeah. The reason I don't ask a lot of times is I'm going to preface my answer and why I gave it. Then I could talk for like 10 minutes. And a lot of times they go, I didn't even think about that. So a lot of times I try to push them off their edge or like, oh, he gave so much information. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. So that's kind of what I try to do.
Yeah. And with that one question in particular, I think it really is to like weed it out, because then also you can get rid of the people off that list that just give like a completely random, unrelated, no idea type of response. Or like I heard from somebody recently, just reading off the screen, with questions and so forth.
Oh, you can tell when people reading off the screen. But like this
is a good question too that we've answered before, but it's a common one. Mm-hmm. We could go around the room on like what's the favorite part around GRC.
Well, I don't work in GRC, so I can't answer that.
And see, like when people ask questions like that, I just completely null and gate those sections of it, because I just put it in a broad form of, what's your favorite part of GRC? Because I don't like closed questions like that.
Yeah, I like documentation.
Yeah, it's all good.
I just like, for me, everybody know, I just like NIST 800 IRS, just the whole security program process, right? Findings, poems, risk acceptance, risk exemption, what makes a program. Because as a senior person, a lot of times I get open-ended questions. Tell me about the security program you were in and how y'all ran it, pluses and minuses of it, right? And they just leave it open-ended. So you just got to be comfortable going through ticking those off, right? So policies, procedures, SOP, go to the technical side. How do we do harding? How do we do finding? So So
that's a lot of stuff.
And I want to let them know I'm a bad man. Like, shout out to Caesar. I don't want to tell him I'm a blank slate, right? I'm Picasso, so I'm gonna give him some Picasso-ness. I'm gonna paint a picture. So, but no. Once again, I've been doing this for 30 years, so it's a little different.
Yeah, and then Fleckinator said you like documentation and paperwork.
I enjoy the documentation and processes. I enjoy creating them and everything too. I'm strange.
And that's the way to get, especially young people. If you want to get on the team, senior people like me hate doing documentation.
Yes, I don't mind.
That's fact.
I hate documentation now.
I'm also the person, like, if I learn something to do a process at a job, which I used to do, like, this isn't documented? No, it will be.
Let me handle that for you.
Oh gosh,
I'll document it for you, no problem. Because
So I have this. I showed this before because my wife ended up making a NIST clock here, and one of the stickers on here is actually let me make a spreadsheet. I'm silently creating a spreadsheet for that.
Ooh, we gotta get out of spreadsheets. We gotta get out of spreadsheets, man.
Yeah.
We gotta move into something else.
What about you, B-Dubs? What's your favorite part of GRC?
I mean, I'm with Flakinator on this. I really enjoy documentation. I like writing policies, and one of those crazy people.
Nerd.
Yeah, that's me.
Nerds.
Nerd. Yeah, that's me.
I still have my documentation for fairramp.gov.
Oh gosh.
I mean, it fits because I like writing. So
if I need a template, it's out there. I go to fairramp.gov. So I'm gonna give a few secrets today. They got templates for almost everything out there. Now they suck because they're for Fed. They're pretty big. You probably gonna need to cut them down if you work at a regular job. But we're gonna jump into that in some videos where I get those templates at.
Chris, you have to put up that most recent comment from Cybercasty. I think that's right on par with PBO.
I think I saw that.
Which one? Cybercasting?
Yeah.
Oh. I'm in engineering regarding GRC, and I love
the one right after that.
I'm getting up in front of internal auditors and sparring.
There you go.
Oh, thanks. No.
That's totally PBO right there.
And Rhonda goes right in line with that as well.
Yeah, Rhonda too.
No. See,
what about you, Space Tacos?
I'm the Mike Tyson. I ain't sparring. I'm knocking people out. Sparring means it's a give and go. I'm running them over. I'm about that cyber
straight
life.
Violence.
I'm about that straight violence, right? I'm straight violence. If I put something down there, I take it personal if you're attacking my findings or my mitigated control. I take that personally. I'm running over you like Mike Tyson. Let's go. I don't spar with people.
You mean like young Mike Tyson, right? Not
not old.
Okay.
No, shout out to old Mike Tyson. He made $20 million. So I want to be
that's true. That's true.
Make 20. Looking bad and make 20.
Space Tacos.
That's a win. Go ahead, Space Tacos. My bad.
I can't hear. What happened?
What is your favorite part around GRC? Like, what do you love?
Well, I'm only a year old, but so far my favorite part is that I leave work at work. I don't have to bring it home with me in any way, shape, or form. But my favorite part of being on the job is I like the investigating. So that, because you have to do research, because I'm an auditor, so I have to research what I'm going to audit. Like the cybersecurity directive that came down from the TSA, I just did an audit on that for our commuter railroads. I didn't know nothing about that. I do now, but I didn't when I started. And then I'm doing a disaster recovery audit. I knew nothing again about it before. I do now. And then my very first audit was the employee educational reimbursement program. Mm-hmm. I knew nothing, and now I do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I kind of like the getting smartified as I go through all these different processes. And my director and my assistant general are teaching me how to ask better questions, because literally right now, my auditee is playing word games with me. Thanks. And it's a little irritating. It's a little infuriating. So I'm about ready to pull a PBO and choose violence, but my director's like, no, this is how we're going to handle this. Mm-mm. And then when that doesn't work, then my assistant general steps in and it's like, oh, we're not playing this game today. So I'm learning how to communicate better. I'm learning how to it's not be skeptical. I'm learning how to be more analytical. And it's like, okay, well, if they gave me this and they said this, but I can only see this, that doesn't make sense, does it? It's teaching me how to look at things from a very objective point of view. And then I do like making presentations to present and, this is what I found. You guys are awesome, or you guys suck, and fix it and whatever. So.
Well,
yeah, and PBO's over here biting off ears, and then Space Taco's knocking them out.
No, I'm not. That was PBO.
Yeah, that's me. I think, and she's correct, but usually since I'm doing this, the IRS, I understand that super deeply, so I can really. Yeah. And a lot of times I've seen the artifacts and what they should look like, right? So I don't have to do much investigation anymore, unless they change the name to Vestibule. But go ahead, Space Tacos.
Let me clarify. I don't audit the way most companies do. I work in a gigantic organization that has several different agencies. It's public transportation.
Yeah.
And so I'm literally just kind of like a generic auditor. I audit finance. I audit all the different things. I'm not just a straight IT auditor.
No.
So it's not like me taking a collection of NIST controls and making the checklist and saying, you guys have this in place? No, you suck. You got this in place? No. Yes, you rock. It's not me doing that. It's me saying, okay, well, there's a new, the presidents of the different agencies come to our department and say, hey, you guys are our team of auditors. Can you come look at this new process we have in place? Or can you come look at this new TSA directive that we have to comply with? And these guys are being boneheads and not helping us, or whatever the fact is.
Yeah.
So we're not doing just a straight up and down compliance of yes, no, this is why not. They're close to it. It's always very creative. It's very organic. We have to come up with all kinds of everything. I have to find all the regulations. I don't have like just a set of NIST. I have to find all of the stuff. I have to find New York State, New York City, federal stuff. I have to find all kinds of crap. So I'm not doing the standard kind of audits that we usually talk about.
No, I know what you're talking about, because State Board of Accountants would come in and ask financial questions against our NIST documentation. So, like you say, finding that nuance from finance to, which is still a little more straightforward. And I frown up because I'm like, how is TSA even talking about cybersecurity? That was just a weird agency to give that to.
Maybe you and I should have story time a little later about that. I can explain the whole thing.
No, I don't want to know, because it's gonna make me madder. I can always feel it.
All right, that's cool. I will say that it took me 8 months to complete the audit, when it should have only taken me about 4, maybe 5.
Yeah, I'm like, how's TSA getting that CASEUS audits for pipelines? I'm like, dude, y'all barely doing airport pat downs. What are y'all doing?
It affects the commuter public transportation.
Yeah, but I would have gave that. Don't we got a transportation? I'd have gave it to Homeland Security.
It's under Homeland Security.
I know, but I would have moved it up. I just think TSA sucks. But I know, I would.
You know what? You talk to TSA.
Biased PBO.
I'd have gave it to CISA. I think
PBO is trying to start a fight.
You know what? Yeah. I think you're right.
I am. I choose violence every time. I choose violence every time.
Always trying to fight.
Always.
Always.
Got to set the tone. See, I'm old, so when I come in an organization, I'm punching you in the throat, because I want you to know I am the big dog.
Don't make me have to cut another video down because of you, PBO.
I'm the big dog. I'm punching you straight in the throat. I am the big dog. That's not DOD, because it's ex-military, so they're brutal. So I learned right up. Hey, you got to give people respect. So I'm coming in swinging.
This is how PBO was able to get a remote job, because they don't want him in the office.
Facts.
They wanted him far enough away that they could get out first.
Facts.
I was going to just mention my response too, so we could move on to the next questions. But I've mentioned it before too. I really like the aspect. I feel like you could have more of an impact from a GRC standpoint, from the top down, across the organization, the employees, and the general public, even if done properly, of course. Right. That's considering and taking into effect that GRC is a program and not just a person. So that's a perfect world. But that's kind of like what fascinates me with GRC.
So I kind of think we need to get PBO a shirt that just says I work in GRC. Move out of my way before I punch you in the throat.
No. Just put a shirt that says I choose violence. Move.
Yeah, GRC.
Hey, Chris.
Wait.
I choose violence.
Shop,
GRC
right?
analyst.
Yes.
Oh, I have a better
Merch
idea.
shop.
So not only do we have the merch shop, but then also what we need to do is we need to get a hold of Haircut Fish and get a GIF of Mike Tyson and then put PBO's face on him.
Yes.
That's what we need to do.
And then put it on a shirt.
And then put it on a shirt.
And then put it on a shirt.
Straight violence. I choose violence.
I choose
my boss.
Like, you're not my friends no more.
I'm gonna bring my boss on. He told me I was too soft. He's going there like, you got to get him today. I'm like, I don't want to get him. He's like, you got to get him today. So,
TBO is gonna hit the bag after the stream.
Yeah.
Fact.
That's hysterical.
He probably has one right there in his office that you.
I was actually thinking that too, B-Dubs. He probably has one right next to him.
TBO barely going to Planet Fitness. He getting old. I'm walking on the treadmill with the old people early in the morning.
Yeah, and I wish I could go to that meetup in North Carolina too that Jax is running.
Woo-hoo!
So Jax started up a meetup with a couple other people too, once a month.
Yeah, she's
but yeah. That was what I was mentioning earlier is so tomorrow we'll actually have Luke Canfield up, who will be presenting at their next meetup. And so tomorrow at 6 p.m. we're actually doing a special stream with Luke Canfield doing the exact same presentation for risk versus vulnerabilities.
We get it first.
So
that's interesting. I saw that. It's gonna be interesting.
I like it.
Yep. So we're gonna be the first ones with that. I mean, I just had to beg him enough and explain to him that, the world's just not the same if I can't see it. So, yeah.
Chris, real quick, though.
Yes.
Maybe he has a really good idea. Let's create an emoji on the Study GRC server. And I really think he's talking about, PBO and Mike Tyson, the whole, choosing violence. We need a violent PBO emoji.
PBO's going to disappear.
I'm here for it.
Oh, I like that. The don't question my compliance or meet my violence. That's good.
Nice.
I like that.
Oh, yeah, this one?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Facts.
Don't question my compliance or meet my violence.
Facts.
This could be a quote from
PBO.
Yep, I had a very in-depth talk with a security architect today. We were reading the contract line by line. So I was like, I think you misread that. Let's see what it says. Shut up.
GRC Mafia has a team violence subsection.
Yeah. And my favorite thing I tell people is facts over feelings. So let's look at the facts. Let's don't get too emotional.
Yeah.
Before I punch you in the throat. Let's look at what it says.
That's why I was saying earlier that when Flakinator was talking about how soft skills are so important, I could just see you rolling your eyes and you're like, who cares?
No. It depends on a certain job. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be. I want people to know how I'm feeling, so they don't have to guess. I just be shaking my head. I don't like that.
I could see at the top of PBO's resume, it just says violence, like violence over whatever, just right at the top, just so
do
they know.
Do you guys realize we're already over a 2-hour mark?
I
saw that.
I'm like,
I literally looked down and I'm like 8 o'clock. What?
What?
I saw it just now.
I just realized it's been 2 hours and 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow. It does not feel like that. If anybody has any other last questions, we're probably going to stick around for a few more minutes. But if we just don't look at the time, we have stayed up until like almost 4 hours and so forth. But we started cutting it back to like a 2-hour limit was our goal, just to everybody's well-being.
Let's go forward, man. Let's break the record. Let's go, man.
Please put that on screen.
I'm drinking pop.
Our stream, right? Oh, this one?
Yes.
We can go. PBO
Thunder Punch.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that.
That sounds like it should be a sticker.
PBO
with a sticker that says PBO Thunder Punch.
We don't need to talk about that on a live though. Is different ways to handle audits.
That's
sometimes people are peaceful, but sometimes auditors can get snarky and kind of trying to punch you in the throat. I'm like, oh no, I'm too old for that.
That's true.
We're gonna have to go. I'm with you. I'm about that life. Let's go. Because people try you. I think people try to try me sometime when I was younger. 24 hours.
AMK's down for a 24-hour stream right now. Are you running it, AMK?
I've done 30.
Yeah, AMK can hop in here and run for the next 24 hours. That's fine.
I told you I did 30.
I'm too old. I'm too old.
I did 30 hours before. I didn't do the whole 30, but
I'm too old for that.
Before the
AMK's good and young. He can handle it.
He did 30 hours. I was like, nah. Long story short, he took a nap while I ran 4 hours of his 30 hours.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
So I can run about 3 of them. So.
Yeah, and so as like a recap as well, so especially when we have presentations within the next few days, we'll trim that out and publish it separately as well. So just the presentation at the beginning of this video will be published into our playlist. That's I think it's called Presentations and Talks, I believe is what it's called on our YouTube channel. So that way there's a shorter version of that. Do what?
Yeah. You named it.
I need to do
that, it's somewhere along those lines. I mean. You guys will find it, hopefully. And then our calendar for the latest updates, we're keeping that up to date first and above all. There have been a couple of things of feedback regarding like time zone. We put that converter link at the top, but like with Google, with the Google Calendar and Outlook, I haven't been able to figure out how it's supposed to auto adjust. I see nothing in the settings. So if you guys have a fix for that, let me know. But between the two different ones, I haven't been able to find one.
Just set the time at the top. It's cool.
Yeah.
Video's resume cover page is just a selfie of him mean mugging.
That's funny. That's funny. But yeah, so like I said,
we're hitting on PBO here. We might as well drop his link.
Yeah, DOD was just because it was ex-military. That was just a different atmosphere, and it was very adversarial. So I think those ex-military guys, if you didn't step up and they ran over you, they didn't expect you. So I think they did that on purpose. So it just kind of created a monster. So you would have to present on the board and people be like attacking you. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
First time I did it, I was kind of shell shocked because I came from like a Fortune 500 super professional pharmaceutical where everybody was nice. Then DOD was like, I drew some of that, like, that's the stupidest design I ever seen. I was like, oh, he just called me stupid to my face. I was like, oh, he choose violence. Okay.
He's your people, PBO.
Facts. So then I just be turning monster, man.
All right. Are you? Is there anything else anybody else wants to add? I don't want to keep people too long.
No, great stream. It's bedtime.
I like your presentation tonight, Chris. That was really good.
It was.
Yeah, it was good.
Shout out to Chris.
I was working while you were talking, but I was listening.
Yeah, shout out to Chris. I was too. I was working on one of my
I
families.
feel like, I feel like yours is going to be a really, really good add-on to it with learning styles. So
yeah, I think mine's going to be goofy as hell.
No. I think I
guess we'll find.
No, I think that's true. Space tacos. There's not a lot of stuff I agree on with you though. I don't agree with a lot of people.
That's all right. We can box.
I like that learning style.
We can box.
I like that. Because people keep trying to get me in a study group. I'm an only child. I don't study. I don't play nice with others. So that's my learning style. I'm an only child.
Okay.
That's obvious.
There's a style, for that.
Facts.
Yeah, I know my learning styles. I prefer to just study on my own. That's just me.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I like to suffer alone in my studies. I just suffer.
All right, and then as we close out here and everything else, I want to drop some of the different information. So like B-Dubs has her blog that she puts stuff out every single Monday. Go check that out. There's just so much different fire. One of my personal favorites, and I think most people's, is the Step Out of Your Shadow. So look for that one. But I mean, I actually had to use the search function earlier because there's so many of them now. And then also Team SC. So you'll find pretty much all of us, if you don't know about it, Simply Cyber as well. So there's their Discord and their website there that goes to their YouTube channel. Really like a sister of Study GRC itself.
And Chris, don't forget to
PBO, which I
mention,
dropped a second ago.
Don't forget to mention that if you watch the streams, you can get CPEs from it too.
Facts.
Yeah. Space Tacos, which is also up here. So she has a website and she has a Discord server, GRC Audit Treasure Trove, which is full of a personal archive for a couple of years now. Everything you're finding, you're just throwing in there and sorting it out.
Everything GRC related I find, I chuck it in there.
Facts.
Yeah.
Chuck it in there.
You literally just go into the Discord server, hit the search button, and just you find all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I'm working on
really cool.
Chuck it in there violently. Sounds like.
Yeah.
No, because my name's not PBO.
Oh, okay, facts. Right.
And then which portion on the CPE?
The Simply Cyber streams, just to mention to people.
Oh yeah. So the Simply Cyber streams, it's half a CPE. Mm-hmm. You just have to like drop it in chat, take a screenshot of it, keep track of it. But that's 5 days a week. So Monday through Friday, daily cyber threat briefing, 8 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah. 8 to 9.
So
and then he does stuff after that.
Jowl jacking.
Correct.
Jowl jacking or a pre-jowl jacking.
Yeah. And then, thank you to everybody who's attended and everybody who came up on stage and so forth. This is our primary meeting every single Thursday. We're having additional special ones that we're adding on that we already did. We have more coming up next week. Check our calendar on our website, studygrc.org. And hopefully we see you guys in the Discord as well. That's a really great spot to, outside of our streams, to socialize and network and so forth. And until I think that covers it all, right? Are we good?
Yeah,
I think so.